I tried as a new way. I'm gonna show you the tricks I know. Not getting tired of talking, so I made up a show right now. It's time that you made your mind up. And looking sounds a little bit strange. Everybody is talking. You need someone ready to change. I will fight like no other every day. I won't stop like the others. I will stay, 'cause it's the right time. I'm feeling alright. I'm flying higher. I'm ready to scream right now. It's better. Don't miss any highlight. There's something you may like. Once I'm ready to fly. It's better. I'll tell her to do it right. So I'll tell her to do it right. It's better. We're feeling alright. We're flying higher. We're gonna win tonight. We're here just for the audience. We're gonna show what you're going through. We wanna find you the perfect drone. There's no one else who can help you out. It's time that you made your mind up. And looking sounds a little bit strange. Everybody is talking. You need someone ready to change. I will fight like no other every day. I won't stop like the others. I will stay, 'cause it's the right time. I'm feeling alright. I'm flying higher. I'm ready to scream right now. It's better. Don't miss any highlight. There's something you may like. Once I'm ready to fly. I'll tell her to do it right. So I'll tell her to do it right. It's better. We're feeling alright. We're flying higher. We're gonna win tonight. It's better. It's better.
Hey everybody, welcome to Geeksvana Live. I hope you're all extremely well. Thank you very much for joining us on this chilly Thursday evening here in the UK. I don't know what it's like where you are in the world. I'm already, having just sat through a 4-minute intro with the panel and the gentlemen who are to do with one of the announcements. I'm already regretting it, frankly, this evening, but there we go. So there might be a follow-up stream to this, the drama, as we undo all the announcements. But this evening, we've got a couple of very exciting announcements to bring you, which will form part of, frankly, what is going to become the future of this channel, Geeksvana. We'll also be chatting drones with our panel, who I'll bring in shortly, and we'll be answering your questions, and we'll be enjoying some viewer videos. So we've got a lot to pack in this evening. If you have any questions, drone-related, channel-related, anything at all, tag at Geeksvana in the chat, and we will come back to them as and when during the show as well, basically. So we are, I think many regular viewers, many of our channel members know that we're always looking for ways to evolve our content and bring you quality, well-produced content focused on the world of drones. We want to bring you more of this, basically. So more in terms of content and more in terms of the way that this is actually delivered, but also in terms of the voices that you're going to be hearing on the channel as well. So it was always my intention that Geeksvana wouldn't just be me presenting, it wouldn't just be me as a voice. The first of our announcements is, and I'm getting some nice and quickly because I know people don't like to hang around with these kind of things, is the very exciting news, as he then completely messes up the wrong buttons, there we go, is that we're actually launching a new companion website to the channel, geeksvana.news. It will bring you more of the stories from the drone world, from some unique voices. There are often stories or follow-ups to videos which we do, follow-ups to live streams, which I'd like to bring you, but there's only so many videos we can release on the channel. Sometimes also a story I feel is actually better delivered in the written form as well. And this is something I'm really excited about because it's going to evolve. It's going to allow me to bring you a lot more types of content. Now, this is a very new project, and we hope it will grow into a full news force of its own. But as with anything on Geeksvana, you, the audience, are going to decide ultimately on the direction it takes. Now, you're going to notice that initially these stories will be shared directly off of our community tab. There's an option to comment. There's an option to get in there as well. You can do RSS feed at the moment, and it will be evolved as time goes on. But at the moment, I am going to attempt to keep it fairly simple. Now, whilst this website's up, this actually helps me bring on to the next of our double announcement, and that is the new editorial team here on Geeksvana. And on the editorial team button on the website itself, you'll find who is that lovely looking gentleman on the right. You'll find one of our new editors here. So essentially, we have a couple of new faces joining us who are going to be providing and producing content themselves on the new site, but also on the channel as well, which I'm very, very excited about. Now, first up, we have a familiar face here on the right to those in the commercial drone world, and particularly those operating in the specific category in the UK. Graham Degg is a regulatory specialist who focuses his consultancy on gaining complex permissions on behalf of clients. So he's got a lot of experience on the regulation side of things. Joining the team as the specific category editor, which is a very specific title, Graham will be producing content for both the YouTube channel and the new site, mainly focused on the regulatory space of the specific category. But as anyone who knows Graham will appreciate, he has a lot to say across a lot of areas of drone use. So expect to see him sticking his nose in all over the place on the channel, frankly. Next, we have someone who needs very little introduction to the Geeksvana audience, and that's Matt Williams. Matt has a wealth of experience across all sectors of the drone world, including running high-scale drone businesses and training thousands of drone pilots across the UK. His voice will be a significant asset to Geeksvana, and you can expect regular weekly content from our new senior editor on a range of hot topics. Very excited to have these guys on board. We're also delighted to announce that the fourth person on this site, the third new editor, is John Coopey, who is the experienced FPV creator, builder and pilot, and he'll be joining us as our FPV editor. Now, John is focused mainly on the new sites rather than the YouTube content, but he'll be bringing us a range of articles and opinion focused on the niche of FPV, which I think it's important to have that voice on the site and important to have somebody who's respected in the hobby and the industry. And I'm delighted to be working with John on that. I know we often have a little ongoing joke that myself and John have have a bit of animosity, but we really don't. It's actually Matt Williams that I really don't like. So up next, we're going to bring in Matt and Graham to have a chat. He's laughing in the background about the new project and answer some of your questions. So do get asking any questions that you have, drone regulation wise, channel wise, content wise, anything at all that you want to know. Tag at Geeksvana in the chat and we'll come back to those. So first up, before we bring them in, we're going to relax with our first viewer video of the evening. And this is actually from Joe at Above FPV. And this is his excellent FPV 2020 showreel. 2023 showreel. Enjoy.
Want your video featured on Geeksvana? Send a streaming link to video@geeksvana.com and then watch our next viewer video show.
And here we are, as Matt Williams isn't even looking at the screen, which is a fantastic way to start. Thank you, Matt. Because he's, of course, engaged with you guys in the chat. Well, that's what you were doing, weren't you, Matt? So, yes, indeed.
Yeah, I was.
Well, welcome, guys. Welcome to the announcement stream of you both joining the channel as content editors. I'm extremely excited. I have a lot of respect for at least one of you. I won't identify which one publicly, but yeah, I have a lot of respect for you both, and I think that together the three of us can bring some different voices to the channel and also to the industry, etc., and to the hobby. And one of the things that excites me is that we don't necessarily always agree with each other, and that on some things we're sort of more militant than the other one is, and that type of thing. Essentially, I mean, I often have many conversations where I disagree with you, Graham, don't I, over Messenger, and we start to disagree about specific things, shall we say?
And I mean, there's rarely blood on the walls, but yeah, we come at things from different angles, I think it's fair to say.
Yes.
And half the time, neither of us really know what's right until history plays out.
Well, no.
We've probably got a bit of that going on.
No. I think you'll find that I'm always right.
Oh, sorry, you're always right.
It just takes you a bit of time to realise that, I think, is the thing there. So
you're always right.
Yeah,
just not yet.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just very quickly, thank you very much to a couple of super chats that we've already had in. Big Bear, Mark, great to see you. A $10 super chat. He's hoping your 2023 will be great. Well, thank you, Mark. I really appreciate it. I'm hoping so too. And Aviano, Rob C, good to see you as well. Sean, you're awesome. Keep up the great work. Okay. I feel like I didn't pay Rob, but I feel like I should now, frankly. So yes. So Matt, welcome to the channel. Obviously, we've worked together for a good couple of years now. I think I always used to enjoy doing the aviation show with you, and we're going to have some fun with some live shows as we go on as well. But I'm really looking forward to working on content with you, basically.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome, and it's a great opportunity, and I think hopefully, it's one of those things that by us bringing this together and making it a focal point for the community as a whole, we're getting back to that kind of, like you say, like we had with the aviation show a few years ago, and we provided, I think, that focal point for the community, but it's going to be 10 times more than that now, right? So it's super exciting.
Exactly.
What you've created,
and I think that I have to say, looking forward to people disagreeing with you might sound like a strange thing to sort of re-emphasize doubly now, but that's actually kind of what I'm looking forward to. That you are going to, dear viewer, you are going to see content on the channel that is literally going to contradict with and disagree with. I'm expecting videos from Graham saying Sean said this last week. I disagree with him. That's nonsense, and this is why. And that's what we really want to start establishing, is that debate and that platform where we can all work together and hopefully widen that debate out to the regulator, widen that debate out to government, etc. Start getting and continue to get you the answers that we want to get you. But yeah, as XJet says, I seldom agree with myself. But yeah, well, I'm certainly within that. So and
so you two fall out with each other. I never fall out with anyone.
Sorry, hang on. We've just got a phone call coming in. Sorry, just one second. Sorry, who is it? The CAA, right? And what is it you want to say? Oh, it's not related to this conversation. Okay, that's great. Fantastic, excellent. So yeah, and I'm also looking forward to it from the point of view that I do sometimes feel like when we cover regulation on this channel, I have my own points of view. I have the way that I like to present things in a very clinical format so that people can get the information and get out. It isn't too clouded by my opinion and that type of thing. But with this, we're going to be able to have that opinion. We're going to be able to have that accountability even for each other, frankly, which I have to say I'm as I say, I'm really looking forward to it. We've just had a super chat come in, which is a rather upsetting one, frankly. And I expect better of you, Ian, at Mads Tech. If I pay, can we keep that Mac guy off the screen? Well,
I'll tell you what, if he keeps paying, I'll keep my hands off the screen. How about that?
Yeah, he'll stop waving his hands in front of the
Does that
screen.
work for everyone? 3 minutes I lasted before someone got upset with me being here. Oh my god!
It didn't last long, did it? But thank you, Ian. I appreciate your support, sir. I hope you're very well. If anybody doesn't have Ian, I normally get an advert for my £5 super chat on his live show, so I should really do the same back. Mads Tech, anything FPV, and if you want to see somebody literally blow things up on a workbench live on air, that can happen on his stream, as he actually takes things apart and fixes them and builds things live, etc. as well, which is always the bits that I'm always very excited to watch. So, but thank you for your support, Ian. I really appreciate it. So what kind of content can we expect to see from you, Matt? Putting you on the spot.
Sure, a bit of everything. I think from my side now, it's I've done the kind of regulatory thing and helped as best I can with that. But I think it's moved on from that side of things for me now, and it's more about trying to advance people within the drone industry, have that crossover with the aviation,
awesome.
the kind of crewed aviation piece, and self, personal development and self improvement. So it's bridging that gap now between taking people who are doing drones and then want to professionalize themselves and start looking at it as a proper business. And there's a few people who are doing it well because they're very talented, but there's a lot more space now, I think, for everyone to start to develop.
No, exactly. I'm looking forward to that as well, because obviously you have worked at every level of the drone industry, from all sides of it, from all the way from being obviously a keen hobbyist all the way through to, I've seen pictures of you on the James Bond sets and that type of thing, etc., flying drones, and I think that level of experience, to pass that on via things like the Drone Mentor, which is obviously your newest project, I think is really exciting. And there's always been that kind of mentor, and even when you had your regulatory focus, there was always that mentor side of it as well that I think drew a lot of people to your voice and to what you had to say. Certainly myself, as a former viewer of Mr. MPW. So I'm looking forward to that. Graham, what can we expect to hear from good old Mr. Graham Degg on the channel, apart from telling everyone every second that Sean is wrong?
Okay. I can temper that by telling everybody how right Matt is, and I guess I'll carry on from I'll pick up the baton from Matt on the regulatory side, and essentially try and interpret and find my way through the regulations and the constant changes in regulations we're seeing at the moment, with promises of more. Thanks, just as we haven't begun to get our heads around what we've got now,
yes,
we're being told about the next lot coming along. Thanks, guys. Now, there's such thing as too much notice. Yeah. So.
Exactly. I mean, you have to question the fact that the three of us have put this project together now, with so much coming ahead of us in regulatory terms and in terms of the future of the hobby and the profession, that we possibly need our heads read, frankly. But I'm looking forward to getting into the nitty-gritty of things. And one of the areas that I think we've lacked on the channel is really more conversation towards the specific category, and not obviously we don't say commercial flyer anymore, but certainly professional operator. And when I say operator, I mean somebody who is operating drones as a business, basically. And I think that's a voice that up until recently was a growing voice. Obviously, with controversial CAA figures out there, we now know that that's possibly a marketplace which has shrunk recently. But I think it's important to get that voice across, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think you use the word professional there, and that's the word I've started to use, because if you use the word commercial, even though I think we know what we mean, we're not allowed to use it anymore. So I sort of think of professional, and that's in the broadest sense of the word, which means the attitude. It's the attitude that goes along with it. Am I going to follow the regulations, and do I understand those fully, and do I get it? Do I actually understand risk assessment and risk management? Because I think if you do, it's amazing what you can get. Well, I was about to say it's amazing what you can get away with. You're not getting away with anything. You are flying safely, but you can fly safely and do better things possibly than other people.
Yes.
And it's just understanding what you can do, what you can do, how you can do that, and where you do need sort of different permissions. And I was about to say, where you might need a GVC rather than an PDRA 01 AO or OA. God, this is Oasis. It's not red wine.
Well, this is actually.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we've got a situation now where possibly better off with an OA than an A2C of C.
Can you tell? Can you tell, Matt, that he's a little bit wound up by a certain subject at the moment? We are about 15 minutes into you both coming on air, and we're already going down the PDRA 01 OA thing. Now, one of the things I promise everybody, all the hobby watchers, even all the guys over in the US that love drones and want to know everything about drones in the world, you will get to know about all of these acronyms, and with the shows that I'm going to be doing with Graham, we're going to take the myth out of, and with Matt, we're going to take the myth out of growing drone businesses, and we're going to put a lot of value out there in terms of helping you move on from someone that is a Mini 3 flyer that just wants to fly commercially with that, all the way through to somebody that wants to then go into the heavy lift side of things, the cinematic side of things, etc., the surveys, what have you. So we will demystify all of that, but yes, you can probably tell that that there is certainly a keen subject which is going to be coming up on the channel, a fair amount.
It's true to say, Sean, I've probably got about 10 big ranty videos that I just need to get out of my system.
So we're basically saying Graham is the new X-Jet, UK X-Jet. Okay, I've just made a note of that for the producers. So, right, moving on to a couple of quick questions from the chat before we come up with our next viewer video. And this one's from Ethan. Hi, Ethan. Good to see you. He's asking, what do you think of the CAA website, considering that some of the links on it don't work and it's hard to find what you want? Well, I think from my point of view, Ethan, I would agree with you. I think that comms and how the regulations and how things are communicated from the CAA to everybody is something which, again, is going to be a very big topic on the channel, especially with this man down here. And I would agree with you from the point of view that it's tough. Outside of the Damares website with the drone code and everything, which is fairly straightforward, actually trying to deep dive or trying to find where a piece of information is pretty difficult, because it's something that I even ask Graham, and Graham, we all ask each other about. Where was this? And have you got this copy of this form, etc. And it is one of the frustrations, isn't it? I mean, Matt, what do you think about that?
How did I know you were going to come to me about that the first time? Yeah, I mean, it's. I think the question kind of almost answers itself, right? Like, if I was asking that, it'd be a rhetorical question. I don't, it's not, but it could be made much more simple. And actually, I've said a million times, I think now, this needs to be made more simple, because this is the way that we get people into aviation. This is the way that people learn. And I had a conversation with the CAA a couple of weeks ago directly and said, look, you need to learn how to make aviation things make sense to non-aviators, and that nowadays should be a very, very simple thing to do. Yeah. Apple, and I know it cost them billions to do it and stuff, but like, you can take one of the most complicated things in the world out of your pocket now, not know how it works, and just do it, and it works. If we can do that with that, why can't we do that in the real world now with rules and regulations and say, right, here's a sheet, this is what you need to do. And that's,
you might be doing that thing of answering your own question again there, of perhaps there might be too much rules and regulation, but actually it's difficult to put all of these volumes of information into simple links. But what always upsets me is when someone is keen on finding the answers and they can't find the answers easily. And I mean at every level, be that a professional operator who has 20 pilots flying for them, etc., and they want to get their hands on something, or a hobbyist with a Mini 3. Other drones exist. That's really where I feel that a lot of my frustration comes into it, because we're pointing people, and all the work you did with Mr. MBW, etc., and UAV Hub, pointing people towards being safe flyers, wanting to learn, wanting to train, etc. And if you can't find that information, I think that's quite frustrating.
There's an even bigger problem sometimes, Sean, which is that people find the answer. They go onto the CAA website, they find the answer, and I've found myself in many a tussle on Facebook trying to explain to people that the CAA aren't always right on their website because the website takes time to catch up. And so the regulations change. They know they're going to change, but they don't go through the process of building the pages before the changes.
Yes.
And I've actually spent, there was a gentleman called Jerry Corbett who retired from the CAA a couple of years ago. And probably the last month of his life, I was emailing him regularly to point out the pages that were wrong. And he asked me to do that so that he could pass them on to the IT guys and get them changed, because there was nobody else whose job it was to find the incorrect information and void pages.
But now there's no Jerry, right? And
now there's no Jerry. Yeah,
that's the other problem.
Yeah, and as Tim Long in the chat says, the CAA is used to dealing with organisations, not individuals, and I do see that as well. That needs to change in certainly in the drone space. I understand with manned aviation, etc. There's a whole other level of people that they have to communicate with, and often there is organisations, but they still have to get those basic rules down to each individual private pilot or someone that wants to take lessons, etc. So I think that yes, Ethan, you're 100% on the ball in terms of that particular issue, and I think it's one that I think we're all very aware of. Jason, one of our channel members, has asked to tell us about the RID news here in the UK that Bruce referred to earlier, mentioned 2023. Any details or too early? Not too early. But I do have a live show planned on this early next week, Jason, which is going to break all of this down in terms of where we are, what the journey will be, and how it will actually work. This isn't something new to the UK, remote ID. This isn't something that's necessarily come as a huge shock. I was actually already planning live shows on that this month. I've got remote ID modules in which are going for authorization in the States, which I'm testing at the moment for a video to compare 4 or 5 of them together. And yeah, it's something which will happen in the UK. If you look at the CAA modernising airspace document, which they put out another edition of this week, was it? Or maybe last week? In there, it does stipulate UTM, remote ID, even having to have permission to clearance for each drone flight that happens, etc. So there's a lot of changes that are going to be coming in the next few years. It's not probably going to happen in terms of affecting anything for at least until 2026, maybe even longer than that. We'll have to wait and see. But yes, it is coming, and it will be a topic which will get discussed on the channel lots. Be ready, basically, frankly, for that one. Are you okay, Matt? Did I see you sneezing there?
I am. I'm just editing, working in the chat. I'm sorry, seeing a couple of bits. So.
Oh, okay.
My chat's over there. I'm sorry. That's the problem. So it's.
As Matt just
still with you. I'm still with you, boss. I'm still with you.
Please don't call me that. Right. Let's watch a viewer video whilst I chastise Matt off air. This one is actually from one of our channel members, Chuck, and his wife Laurie have been using their drone to capture some great effects in their travel vlogs from their channel Cove Action. Here is part of their 2022 recap, which shows just how well a drone footage can work into normal content as well. Actually, I really enjoyed watching this one.
Let me feel your love again, 'cause I've been running round in circles screaming out your name. Take me to a different place, just the two of us, and we can stay up all night, kissing under street lights, doing what we want to, doing what we need to do, staying up all night.
It says keep out, no trespassing.
So as I say, somebody pull the fence down.
Gate's down, fence is down. How can we not?
Someone who can hold your hand. I don't even know if you can understand how you make me feel. I got you in my head. Oh, I wanna be with you. Oh, I wanna be with you.
It is super windy.
It's windy.
Very beautiful, but super windy.
Very high.
No, the height doesn't bother me.
Oh.
Wind, it feels like 50 miles an hour.
The height bothers me.
This is Treehouse Brewing. It's like Disney World for beer. This place is insane.
I like filming.
Yeah, the buildings are really nice.
We have to leave our mark.
Left our mark.
Cool.
That is cool. I like it. Dam.
We are at the dam.
Yeah, there's a dam. Like right here. It's a dam. And a pretty cool bridge too. We're like right at the mouth of the falls. It's pretty incredible. We're at the Niagara Speedway today, and Lori and I are feeling the need for speed.
Oh my gosh, I should have known.
You think they know our name?
Probably. They will say Cove Action.
Everybody knows our name. It's Cove Action. We'll see if they know.
They'll say Cove Action.
We're going into Cheers. So we're at Cheers. Toast to Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
This is awesome. To Smith & Wollensky's. You're still dangerous. You can be my wingman anytime.
Bullshit. You can be mine.
Want your video featured on Geeksvana? Send a streaming link to video at Geeksvana.com and then watch our next viewer video show.
You okay there, Matt?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, I thought, given the comments, I'd get out of my little hobbit hole, my little wicker chair, and make it really horrible, a really horrible colour, because that's how we roll. I could, just
So is it possible that you're taking the comments regarding what you look like in your set to heart a little bit?
Well, I mean, people just find a way to to twist the knife. Luckily, I've learned to live with it, so that's much better. There you go.
Bless.
Oh dear! Now I've got to spend 3 years getting it.
Yeah,
back
that's right.
again.
For one 20-second joke, we now have to wait for Matt to run around the room. Right. So up next, I'm going to talk a little bit about where the UK sits in terms of drone regulation, and really looking at where we're going to be going in 2023. Where do you feel, Graham, at the moment, if you were to give drone regulation a grade of where it stands right now, and and in that we mean all parts, so DFT, CAA, stakeholders, the whole thing. What grade would Professor Degg give it?
E minus.
E minus.
Or like in my English mock exam, F, fail. I remember that one. Cool.
That's a harsh grade to give it, frankly.
It was harsh.
Yes,
it was harsh.
Yes. I mean, it feels like we are in a very strange space at the moment, and it's frustrating that we've spent a good couple of years trying to educate and trying to get the right messages out there, and we feel that things have changed around a little bit. Basically, things have been sort of switched around a few times already, and we're about to go into another open category investigation, as they like to call it, and we've got SORAs coming around the corner, etc., and that type of thing as well. But I do wonder where we're going to go from 2023. Would you want to make any predictions, Graham?
2023.
Yeah. Where will we be at the end of 2023 in terms of regulation?
I would like to think that, because the thing we're waiting for, if you don't know about the specific category, I'm going to bore you or educate you. So essentially, you go and get a standard permission. You start with a standard permission, which has standard clearances in. And the big advantage of that has always been that people can fly in what's called a bubble. So you have a bubble around the drone. So if you're 50 meters up in the air, or 52 meters, whatever, then you are 50 meters clear of somebody on the ground and you can overfly them. Now you always try and minimize overflight because, things can go wrong, but you could do that. we now have a situation which I can only refer to as Schrodinger's clearance, because the CAA don't seem to be able to work out whether or not that should be a bubble. Look, quantum physics is important.
I love the fact of two of these things here. One, I've never heard of Schrodinger's bubble before, which I love, absolutely love, and that, by the way, is now officially copyright Geeksvana and Graham Degg. But I also love the fact that you've jumped ahead on the run order, which actually we thought Matt would be the one. We thought the Air Force pilot would be the one that we wouldn't be able to control this evening. But no, we can move on to the bubble. No. It's not a problem at all.
So I think
I think he's really bothered about the bubble, Matt. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the bubble's a big deal.
I can't think why. I think possibly by the end of the year there will have been an existential threat, which will either have been a big fuss over nothing, and we'll find a way, or possibly the CAA will take what it thinks of as a regulated community and find that largely there is an unregulated community and that it has no power over that. And that's my biggest concern, because we're probably safer if there is regulation and there is the right level of regulation, but it is finding out what that right level of regulation is. And I think, there may be a pendulum swing we're going to see at the moment, which is going to test the industry, because we've not seen a swing in that direction previously. We've seen swings towards greater freedom, and we don't know, but we're possibly going to see a swing in the other direction. Okay. And I think that's dangerous. Because
yes, and that was one of the things, that was one of the biggest things I took away from my initial VLOS video, which updated in terms of how the AMC sees VLOS with the whole orientation thing, is the amount of people that are regular commenters on my channel who were saying, actually, I'm done with this. I'm done with the regulation, and I'm trying to follow it, but and that upsets me, because that video didn't have any opinion in it from me. It didn't sit there and say, this is terrible or anything. It just said, these are the rules. This is the CAA's definition of VLOS. Here you go. And the overall negative response that was received to that was concerning to me, in terms of, but as I say, many names in there who are people that I have chatted to for a couple of years running this channel, and suddenly their viewpoint was changing. So for anybody that wants to, just a very, very quick explanation. At the moment, you have the hobby, so you have the open category, and you have overflight with sub 250 gram drones, not with bigger. If you want to fly larger drones in town centre, you get an A2 CFC, which gives you a 50-metre horizontal column. Above that, you take your GVC, you get an operational authorization called the PDRA, the Predefined Risk Assessment 01 from the CAA. And at the moment, that gives you a bubble. So once you are flying 51 meters above people, or let's not talk about that, but anyway, a 50-meter bubble, which means you can fly over uninvolved people, not crowds, etc., anything else like that. And you have to get on with it. You can't hover over, and all sorts of safety bits to that as well. But that bubble is the thing that's in jeopardy here at the moment, and that we are fearful that announcements even this week could actually remove that, which of course will bring people that have gone out and done the GVC training, got their OA, so they can fly heavier drones safely in a bubble, will put them back to an A2 CFC standard of column, basically, won't it?
And let's not forget that probably the vast majority of those 3,699 OA holders that there were in December are probably flying drones under 2 kilos. There's a lot of people have swapped over to things like the Mavic 3, so 900 gram drone, and they may as well be operating that under an A2 CFC and not letting the CAA know what they're doing, because there's no oversight. There's
no ops manual. There's no, you have your certificate, the A2 CFC. That's it. Your work is done, as it were, for a few years. So it's it is a concern. And of course, we're also talking about the backdrop of where we've seen the numbers of professional PDRA 01 flyers dropping from something like nearly 7,000 to 3,500 within one reporting cycle, so not even within a year, essentially, which is also, of course, very concerning for that professional side of the industry, because their voice is lessening. But of course, it means that you don't have the investment going into that sector, do you?
No, and those are the pilots. If we go in for future flight and we want people who sort of understand flying drones as opposed to flying aircraft, and there clearly are differences, then those are the people who are in the industry. They're entering into, if you like, the first rung on the ladder of aviation, and they're learning to work against procedures and processes. Well, if you destroy that, destroy that particular level and just take all the numbers out, then where will you get those people for future flight, and where will you, how will people grow experience?
Okay.
And you mentioned the VLOS, getting an awful lot of traction, and people being concerned and worried about VLOS and how they fly to it, and what impact it will have on their hobby. Well, that's their hobby. Imagine if that impact is on putting food on the table. Imagine that is your work. You are going out every day when the sun's shining, or it's not peeing down in rain or windy, and you're earning money with a drone, and all of a sudden that part of your income has essentially been cut off at the knees.
Yeah, which is a concern. Now, I'm going to bring the first opportunity for us all to fall out live on air, and I didn't necessarily put this in I did put it in the run order, but I didn't pose it as this. But is overflight?
Have you hidden it?
Yeah, is overflight of under a PDRA 01? So we're not talking about sub 250 gram drone. I think we all agree that safe overflight of people is an okay thing to do with a lightweight, tiny little drone. I'm not debating that. But under PDRA 01, is flying something like an Inspire, even a Mavic 2 upwards, that sort of size of drone, is that safe under PDRA 01 under the current mitigations within the operational authorization? Do you feel like that is a safe operation to do at the moment, Graham? First,
and my answer has to be, it depends on the circumstances. I'm going to start sounding like Sora.
Sorry, just 1 second. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah, no, the producers are bringing the fence in. Hang on. Could you bring just left a bit so Graham? Have you got the chair so Graham can sit on the fence? Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
So the answer is always yes until it goes wrong. When it goes wrong, can you get those people out of the way, or that person out of the way? And so it does depend how many people are on the ground underneath it and where they are. So is it intrinsically safe? No, quads are not intrinsically safe when they go wrong, but I don't think they go wrong very often. So looking at likelihood, I don't know. I'm asked in CAP 7228 to look at my experience. Well, in my experience, a drone has never just flipped and crashed to the ground. So in my experience, that never happened.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah,
Matt, as someone who's trained thousands of UK drone operators, do you feel like overflight is safe under a PDRA 01 at the moment?
I don't think the PDRA or 01 or not has any impact on the safety. That's the primary. That's the primary thing, right? It's not down to the regulations or it's got nothing to do with the regulatory frameworks or what people are allowed to do or not as to how safe or not something is. That is, and this is one of the things the regulator haven't really got their head around in the correct sense. And again, I've got to be kind of careful with how I phrase it, I suppose. But at the same time, I don't, right? Because it is that simple. It's that cut and dry. Like, it is intrinsically, as Graham said, intrinsically unsafe to fly anything over anyone. Right? It's intrinsically unsafe to step out of my front door and walk down the pavement next to the busy main road that I live outside. There are, every week we have a car accident on the road outside our house, and serious car accidents at that, right? And that happens at that, right? And that happens all day, every day. It is intrinsically not safe. The rules, the laws, the regulations are there to try and make it safer and to protect as many people as possible, but there'll always be people who operate outside them, right? I'm no angel. 70 miles an hour on a motorway. I've never always stuck to 30 miles an hour on a road. I know, God. Oh, God. If I just done a Rishi Sunak.
Shocked.
The fine's in the post, I'm afraid. The fine is in the post.
You know, we've all been there, right? So, but here's the thing. I have flown small, medium, large, very large drones all over the world. Thousands and thousands of hours. I've flown manned aircraft all over the world. Thousands and thousands and thousands of hours at low level, getting shot at, dropping people off to do stuff, dropping stuff from the aeroplane that does stuff. What we do isn't safe. The PDRA doesn't make it unsafe or not. But here's the thing, right? I've done those thousands of hours flying drones, and I've never, touch wood, had an accident or an incident. And I've flown big drones over crowds of people safely as possible. We didn't do it with quadcopters. We did it with, octocopters generally. We had parachutes on and things like that to try and protect them. One time we put a net up over the crowd because the client, Volvo, wanted a drone shot of this particular thing inside a stadium, which was closed, but it was being used, and 20 odd thousand people in there. Okay, cool. Well, I'll do it, but you've got to put a net up because I'm not confident. I'm not comfortable. PDRA or not, my permission or not, that's on me, right? To make sure that stuff was
exactly
that stuff was safe. So, to answer your question, the PDRA makes no difference whatsoever. What I would say is that for me, the level of risk to which we've exposed people by putting the regulations in place is appropriate, because as far as I'm aware, no one so far has been killed from a drone falling out of the sky. So that says to me, and this is one of the things I think the regulator maybe needs to kind of get their head around, right? It's like people saying, oh my God, the drone crash at Henley shows that it was unsafe for them to be flying that Alta X, the four-bladed Alta X, over the top of people. And I'm like, actually, no, to me, that shows that the risk assessment and the process that those people had put in place was absolutely perfect. The risk assessment isn't about removing the risk. If we want to do that, we stop everyone flying, right? The risk assessment and the mitigations that you create because of the risk assessments are the things that mean that you get those risks as low as reasonably practicable, right? But at some point there is a risk and people are exposed to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, we've done it for a very long time. Kit has got safer, it's got smaller, it's got more reliable. And yeah, people flying very big stuff should be aware of it as they are and factor that in. But intrinsically, I think we have proven with empirical evidence, not someone guessing about it or going, oh yeah, I've risk assessed this. Well, against what data?
Yeah.
Against what evidence? Because the evidence actually, I would say, suggests that what we've been doing so far has worked a treat worldwide.
And that's it, isn't it? I do think that when we have the argument column versus bubble, or any argument, even within the hobby or any, we're having the wrong arguments almost, because we need to get back the focus back on safety and what produces the safety. And I do feel sometimes with some of the discussions that happen in the regulatory space at the moment, I personally almost feel like we're reducing the risk for government or CAA rather than necessarily actually devising a document which is increasing safety. Which again, I don't know many professional drone operators that want to have their insurance torn apart by flying unsafely. So as an industry, as professional operators, I think the UK has some excellent operators out there who work very, very hard and who are very passionate about actual safety. And of the operators that I've been around, and I've been around a few in the last couple of years, I'm always surprised actually how much more they do sometimes than even necessarily their operational authorization will ask of them, and different things they'll do because they're safety centric rather than just ticking boxes on an operational authorization.
I think it's not often at the moment you'll find me defending the CAA, but obviously we're talking about regulations, and the regulations themselves come from government.
Okay.
Did
we just have has Graham been body snatched?
No, I'm going to be scrupulously fair. So there's this little statement that lives within part of the implemented regulations that are essentially the rules that sort of go down to the CAA, and for then the CAA to make their guidance and in fact the rules that we follow under an operational authorization. It's where they get their guidance from, and part of it says that an operator must use a UAS which, as a minimum, is designed in such a manner that a possible failure will not lead the UAS to cause a fatality. So there is a hard stop there that says that we cannot fly drones that will cause a fatality. Now, given that, and I don't care which ashore test you point me at, there are drones that we will fly up to 25 kilos, and therefore under an OA, a standard OA, we could possibly fly a drone that could cause a fatality.
Yes.
If that's the case, what can the CAA do but say, oh, go right, hold on a minute, they can fly a 25 kilo drone that could kill somebody. Let's keep them away from that somebody.
Yes. But isn't
so
that even that is the wrong conversation to be having, though, isn't it? That is the wrong approach to, because when you're assessing risk, you're not necessarily assessing risk to the public and to the uninvolved people. In my opinion, some of it does come down to assessing risk and protecting the regulator and protecting the insurance and protecting X, Y, and Z. And
yep, absolutely. And but they sort of have to protect against that law. It's that law that needs changing. It's that part of the rules that need changing, because that I don't know. There might be other legislation. I'm not a fan of looking through legislation at random, but I doubt there's anything that says that we've all got to drive cars which, as a minimum, are designed in such a manner that a possible failure will not cause a fatality. If there is something like that in the Road Traffic Act, then we've been getting it really wrong by a couple of thousand people a year, I think. So yeah, that doesn't exist in other areas of life. I doubt it exists in general aviation.
Well, and it moves to what Matt was saying as well about the risk of leaving your front door and the accidents that happen on the road outside of his house, etc.
We have to allow that accidents may happen. Yeah. And yes, we have to try and avoid those accidents. But yes, a zero harm is lovely as well. But to try and hobble an industry with "thou shalt not have any means of causing a fatality" when you're flying something that is fundamentally could drop out of the sky is just a bit bonkers. I don't know.
Yeah, no, indeed, and that's where it starts, because you're basing it on that. It's where it all starts to fall down before you've even started writing risk assessments and things, because you're trying to reach such a high standard that literally no other industry is. It's a bit like the sort of the chainsaw thing that came up on Facebook, etc., where regulations with chainsaws don't have 50-meter bubbles around them and that type of thing, etc. And it's a really interesting conversation, and I think we need to try and almost break down the debates and conversations that are even happening now in the regulatory space and actually bring them down to the brass tacks, so that we can start to get some real answers, basically. Just before, and this joke's probably going to land really badly, but there we go. Just before we play our next viewer video, which is from Connor Mullen, and is actually, he recently did a FPV fly-through of Wentworth Woodhouse with a naked GoPro on a Cinelog 30. I do have to wonder if there would be less accidents outside Matt Williams' house if he stopped standing naked in the window.
Sit down at the back, please. No pushing and shouting. X-Jet, Bruce, put that down. And who let John Coopy in here? I don't know, you can't take droners anywhere.
That wasn't me.
Okay, and we're back. Yes, fantastic there from Connor. Really, really interesting footage actually, because it to me looked very, very high quality. The editing was fantastic. The color was great and everything. And that's just a naked GoPro on top of a Cinelog 30, so a tiny little FPV drone. The footage was incredible, wasn't it? It's a really well done video, in my opinion. No one say anything. It's fine.
It was amazing. No, we were saying before, right? It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like that's what we need to be showing people and getting like that. That's the kind of shit that people need to be seeing to get into drones, like, and encouraging that kind of thing, because
exactly. Hence, we're playing it proudly on the Geeksvana channel. But yes, we were saying saying some other things behind the scenes as well, which is why I'm goading the guys a little bit. But there we go.
As we all agreed, it was a very, very dangerous.
It was crazy, and I don't know how we didn't have more bodies in that video. Frankly, you know,
that's it. National trust as well. Oh my god.
I think it's terrible. No, just everybody just clarify, we are of course joking, and we think it's a fantastic video with a tiny little FPV drone. It just shows where things are going, and the FPV side of things actually really does excite me. And clearly Connor's there on behalf of his business. He's obviously doing that on a professional basis, and that was the next topic to touch on and discuss. In all of this semi-madness that we're within, where new business operators, new professional stroke, I'm going to call it commercial, where commercial operators can actually get into the business. And, you know, more than ever, we're seeing everybody from the Mini 3 owner all the way through to the surveyors and business, etc., wanting to set up drone businesses. But it's I wonder if at the moment there is a less conventional, lower regulation approach that people can take as a footstep. And that's what I'm starting to see, is that people are getting their Mini 3, they're doing estate agency photos with it, they're gaining pictures of rooftops for roof on behalf of roof surveyors and that type of thing. And sort of what I suppose many people would say is the lower end work in the industry. Do you guys see that as an effective way to start, or should it be that back in the old days with PIFCO, etc., where you would go along and get that, and then you would set up the things on a slightly larger scale? Is there that ability to do the stepping stone, do you think?
It's fantastic. I mean, the first roof survey I did was my first job, and it was for a sort of surveyor friend. And I'd got my Inspire one within 8 inches of a chimney pot and a TV area. And I was terrified because that thing drifted like Billy-O. And, you know, to have just been able to throw a Mini up there and do that job safely and, you know, with far less fuss would have been absolutely fantastic. You know, I had his son operating the camera, and I was back a bit, and I'm thinking, I can't go back anymore. There's building there. So because, you know, you've got to learn about the drone, you've got to learn about the camera, because hey, that's what the client's paying for, is the data, not you flying a drone. But you've also got to learn the thing of, how do I talk to a client? How do I communicate with the client? How does the client tell me what he wants? How do I get that information and the data to the client? In what form? What does he want to see? And then, you know, what do I send him to get some money out of him? You know, how does that work? Because it's not flying a drone. It's a business. Yes. So, and yeah, I think that's Matt's expertise.
Exactly. Yes, I was going to come on to Matt next, from the point of view that of course, when one looks to become a professional operator or a commercial operator within the drone world, there's a lot of focus on regulation. What insurance do I need? What you know, what's the regulations for me to fly my drone in a commercial manner, etc. But of course, there's so much more to it, isn't there? Which I know is the thing that you're focusing on these days, Matt. And there's so much more in terms of the psychology of it. There's so much more in terms of marketing. There's so much more in terms of the entire business side of things that's completely separate from regulation.
Yeah, and it's actually I think the most important thing, right? It's what we've always taught to people. It's the thing we've always pushed. I know Graham came through our training. God, back in
16.
Did you train Graham?
Yeah, back in Oxford.
You've trained both people on this, both other people on this stream.
I think it was Tom who
was it
popped
Tom?
the cherry. Yeah.
So I think I just handed the reins over to Tom doing the classroom courses at the time. But it was in our offices in Oxford that Graham came through, and I've always pushed this message to people. Right, it's got nothing to do. For the majority of people, it's got nothing to do with the drone that you have. It's about you. It's about what the solution that you create and how you craft your message and aim that at your target audience. And the biggest reason I think that there's two main reasons why people don't succeed in the drone industry when it comes to business. And that is, first of all, people coming in and thinking that by having a drone and a website and they're going to make money. That isn't going to happen, right? We could maybe get away with doing that in the early days when we were flying model helicopters with the cameras on, because we were one of the only people in the world doing it when we first started doing it. So naturally, if people wanted to have that capability, they found you, right? And it was a small world at the time, but that disappeared very, very quickly. As soon as DJI brought out their Ace 1 kind of flight control that you could put on a model helicopter, and all of a sudden you had but it's one of those that, you need to then think, right, what am I going to use this as a tool for to deliver data? Because the client doesn't care what you've got or how you capture it generally, or, generally the client just wants what they want, or they want what they need. And you've got to create something that someone needs, that you're interested in delivering and capable of delivering, but also able to sell. And it's more about selling yourself than it is about selling what you're creating. And here's the thing, right? And I know people in the industry are getting frustrated, I think, with the fact that someone can just go out on E3 now and for very little money get up and running and call themselves a drone pilot, call them, be a drone operator, set up a drone business. And you don't really need anything wherever you are in the world to do that, right? And a lot of people are getting frustrated with that. And I'm like, that's cool, because that's allowing so many more people to come in, and it's doing, again, two things. It's forcing the people who want to be professional, who want to be flying the big rigs or collecting the big data. It's forcing them to professionalize and learn and evolve and get better, stopping us from being lazy, right? Because now someone with their Mini 3 Pro has a capability for, in the UK, what, 899 quid or whatever it is, that they can put in their pocket, which is, I don't know, quantums 500 times better than the model helicopter that I used to fly that cost the gimbal.
Different world. Yeah.
Oh, mate, I spent 6 months building, programming, working out how to use that gimbal, and it cost me 30 grand to get and build and do. Just the gimbal, right? That's before you've made the helicopter and kind of learned how to work and crashed it 5 or 6 times and rebuilt it and stuff. And we got a crappy camera in there that you had to roll from the ground. You couldn't see what it was shooting. You had to guess. And we took everything really wide because we had to, so that you could get the shot. Yeah, so you could capture something. And it was wobbly as sin. But people liked it. And now you've got this capability that you can put in your pocket, take the propellers off, and you've got a wicked stabilized camera that you can, but it's, there's no reason why you can't get that and use it as a professional tool, right? Like there are people running around with red cameras. There are people running around not doing the same, but doing very similar now with iPhones, because it's about learning and using the tools that you have. You don't need a big drone now to capture big drone stuff. And if you do, it's because you're very talented, or you've got the money and you've had the time to put the time in to learn it, and you're flying a very specific sensor, normally a very specific piece of glass, right? And again, I come back to the Henley thing. Why are they flying a massive drone? And I'll tell you why. You have to fly that drone to get the sensor package in the air that the client needs specific job. You couldn't do that with an Inspire 2, because yes, Inspire 2 could capture that footage probably better than the FS5 or whatever they were flying. They were flying, you're flying old cameras in broadcast, but they're old cameras for a reason, because they know how to how to make them hot or cold. They know exactly how to dial them in. And more importantly, the link that you use to send that information back with one frame of latency,
that's it,
requires a certain camera, and that, you know, and you've got to get that in the air
and everything else. Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
You mean it's not as simple as it looks then, Matt?
Sometimes.
Easy.
No simple answers. Oh, who'd have thought?
What I think we do need to start seeing, and we are going to plug Matt's thing in a couple of moments. I know Matt doesn't like plugging things, but we are, and we need to start seeing more of more support for those who are entering the lower end of the commercial operations side of things with their Mini 3s and gaining their commercial insurance and going off and flying for estate agents, etc., who do well for themselves and actually I want to do a bit more of this. I want to go up. And we need to start seeing a regulatory progression that's easy and that's accessible for these people to train and become, you know, safer with larger drones and competent with larger drones and evolve their businesses. And perhaps we can stop seeing the sort of perhaps the segregation between, almost like the fence between the old PIFCO users and the new Mini 3 flyer type of commercial brigade, and start seeing more of a holistic commercial user. And perhaps that support would be good. Now, Matt, I said we're going to plug you in a moment, and we're actually going to do it right now. You have a very special offer for your wonderful Drone Mentor Academy, which you're launching this evening, I believe.
That's it, yeah. So I think as part of this announcement, we said we're going to come on, and the aim is to try and help more people, right? So if you go to the dronementor.com/Geeksvana
in the live chat right now.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, you know, the kind of until midnight on the 31st of January, we're giving people the opportunity to come and join the academy. We've got a few hundred people in there now in the paid for academy, where I go live once a month, and we do a kind of online mentoring session, a bit like this, but we choose a theme from within the academy. We've got a private community that everyone's in, and I pick a theme. And you know, last month we talked about beating imposter syndrome, because that seems to be something that does affect a lot of people when they're getting into this game. We've talked about how to sell your drone services, how to create a solution. You know, in the selling one, I actually did an example of a video you could send out to people on LinkedIn and things like that, and gave a script for people to download and set a challenge. And actually people in there have started to put their videos on, and we're starting to see that now. And I've seen James JS Aerials in the chat. He's one of our members, and he's been very proactive on his LinkedIn and things since we started to teach that. So that's what it's all about. It's all about advancing yourselves and going to the next level. People are asking us for forever, what's the next stage after I've got my qualifications? How do I make this work? What do I need to do? And that's it. And so the academy is exactly that. It's a closed community where we share a lot of information between each other. There's accountability groups in there, and people have private kind of video meetups in there all the time. I go live once a month to teach people, and you also get access to all of the kind of training courses that I create for people. So there's a drone business startup and scale system course in there. There's a survey and mapping course in there. We've got a Premiere Pro course coming soon, an editing course coming soon, business selling courses, confidence masterclasses going in there as well. There's so much stuff that we're building, and the big one is community, right? A closed community where we all just help each other. We don't. Yeah. But
the focus is away from regulation as well, isn't it? It's all 100%. Of the other stuff. So that, you know, once you've got your regulations sorted, and you have your permissions, or if you're going to fly, start a business with the Mini 3, etc. It's all of that other stuff to actually get the business and get yourself out there and things, including intro videos, etc. And you know, I've seen them pop up in the Drone Mentor group with people saying, "Here's my new intro video," etc. And it's something that they just the journey they've gone on to gain the confidence to make those videos and to learn the editing skills and everything else like that. It really shows the difference to me in the terms of it's mentoring, not just a training course essentially. Hence you have live sessions with people as well, which is really cool.
That's it.
I wish you'd had that 6 years ago, Matt. I may not be where I am now doing part time.
You may not be stuck on Geeksvana Live, arguing with people about bubbles and columns.
Same here. No, that's it. And it's about, like Graham said, it's about the business side, and for me, it's a lot about the personal kind of development journey. That kind of the personal development stuff and knowing everything inside. So, and I think James has just dropped in.
Hi, James.
Helped scale his business and tripled his business income, and and that's what we do. We genuinely do it. We genuinely do it to try and help people. And there's coaching and things on the back of that as well that people can go into. It's all there to help. And anyone who, if they're watching this live, the offer is it's effectively. It's about 69% off, I think, in total is what we're offering for you guys. But also anyone who joins before midnight tonight, it's an annual membership is the offer. I'm giving if they're in the UK or wherever they are, I'm giving them a free UK CAA A2 as well. So if you do join before midnight tonight into that program, then you can, you can come and send me an email.
The excellent UAV Hub A2 CFC.
A2CFC as well, yeah. So we're generally trying to help. So there's another 99
I was going to say that's another
there,
that's crazy. that's actually really. It sounds like a really well rehearsed sales thing, doesn't it? What, an A2CFC really from UAV Hub? But I actually didn't know he was throwing that in, and I think that adds even more value in there, frankly. So anyone that's on the fence regarding the A2CFC, that's an even bigger value proposition there. Somebody asked if you can get done for flying. For drink flying, yes, you can. Just to answer that one, just very quickly. Sorry, but it's only because I was putting the link in the chat again. So do head across and have a look. So,
thank you. I've just seen as well. Andy Wallace saying, "Can the TDM program work if you only want to do it part time?" That's the point. It's we do live sessions, but they're all recorded. And there's a big library of those now. So there's hours and hours of stuff for you to go and watch about the different topics and bits and pieces. So that's the point. We do it. We do some of the stuff live, but most of it's all recorded and it's all available.
Very cool.
For as long as you remember.
Excellent. Right, we're going to enjoy another viewer video. This one is from Chris Baish, who has sent it in showing his flights with a DJI Mini 3 in West Penrith, which is actually from moor to coast. And I really enjoyed this because there's some very different outlooks, some different views. This is good old camera drone stuff. Enjoy.
Doing crazy dreaming.
it faded there. I wanted the music to fade out gently, but there's a bit of a harsher fade back to us than I wanted. But again, really, really great. And we've seen some fantastic videos on tonight, which have, amongst all of this chat, amongst all of this fear for the future and confidence for the future as well, it's nice to be reminded of why we fly drones, isn't it? Basically, it's nice to see the videos and to see people out enjoying themselves.
Absolutely. You know, we see views of towns and cities and countryside that people just, you know, have never been able to see. Yes, aircraft, but we get lower than aircraft in the main. You know, we can stretch our arm up to 400 feet and essentially, you know, we've got a 400-foot high tripod, which I'd have, you know, when I was into ground photography, I couldn't dream of.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, there's not been a generation that's been able to pick up a piece of kit like this, a piece of technology, and just essentially throw it in the air and have a look around. It's just it is staggering. And you know, some people actually make money doing that. I mean, what could be better?
Oh, it's awesome.
Absolutely,
it's awesome.
Fantastic.
I also want to give you a little bit of a plug as well, sir. And I know it's it's an evolving process. But yourself at iUp Aerial Solutions, I look at you as a I suppose specific category OSC specialist consultant, essentially somebody that can help a business to get through the regulatory minefield. And that word minefield is probably more apt than ever before. But it's an evolving thing, isn't it? As well, of course, because 2020 is going to be an interesting year for you as iUp Aerial Solutions in terms of the services that you offer.
I've got interesting things going on personally, and it's going to be an interesting year definitely in terms of how my business develops. So I am always available to do interesting flights for people, and I can fly essentially up to 1,000 feet. You know, if we get the condition right and we get the permissions in place. So that can be interesting on its own. And you know, the usual sort of low clearance stuff. But on the consultancy side, I think possibly there will be a need for, I suspect there'll be a need for more people going for OSCs, and I know I can probably hear the groans, and I probably know who those groans will be coming from in the industry. And it may not happen, but if it does happen, I can't write them all. There should be no need for me to write them all, because operators who sort of can operate under an OSC should be able to generate it themselves. But sometimes they need guidance, because as we know, the documents that the CAA put out can be a bit opaque. And so there could be a greater need for training. And so I think this year is probably going to be more training and mentoring than actually getting down and writing people's OSCs for them. It's actually writing one and writing it well is exhausting. And I've got a new grandchild, so
fantastic.
Possibly might want to spend a little bit of time with her.
So it's going to be an interesting year to see where it takes all of us. And I think that's one of the exciting things about the three of us working together on this new Geeksvana project, from the point of view that we're all going in slightly different directions to perhaps we have been most recently within the industry. And this is either going to end up as a terrible mess or something which delivers a lot of value to the community, basically. So I'm really excited about it, and yes, we will. All three of us will be appearing at this year's DroneX, so you can come and throw rotten tomatoes at us, and or watch our live shows, and see who's tallest, actually, because I actually don't know, and I don't want to find out until
you think so,
or who's shortest as well.
Your size to fit into aircraft, aren't you, Matt?
I'm short. Yeah, I'm little.
Are you?
The camera adds 4 inches, so I'm
that
told.
was a very diplomatic way. That was a very diplomatic way. Your size to fit inside a small aircraft. Disgraceful, frankly. Okay, well, on that note, we will bring things to a close. Well, thank you both very much for joining me for this very exciting announcement stream, and I hope you at home have enjoyed the chat. There's going to be lots more chats like this. I'm looking forward to the content produced by Graham and Matt for the channel as well, individually, to get those voices going. They have the titles of editor, so they are going to be bringing their voices to it. They're not just going to be making what I want them to. This is a team that we're building here in terms of trying to cover what's actually happening out there. So I'm really looking forward to it. So thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
No, please, I insist. And Graham, sir, thank you very much as well for coming along.
Thank you, and sort of thank you for putting the team together. I think it's a great idea.
It's amazing.
Let's wait 6 months before we thank anybody for doing that, shall we? Okay, everybody. Fly safe out there. I think we need a blue skies from Matt personally before we end the show.
Is that how we're signing this off? Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for joining us, and look forward to catching you in the next one. But until then, fly safe and blue sky.
So that is another show wrapped up. What are you all still doing here? Time to go home, people. Come back next time, though.
One thing that Matt is just sorry to come back, everybody. We're not being one of those trendy streams that comes back after the show is finished.
Encore. The crowd goes wild.
No one's doing that. I was very wrapped up in the show and I had my show notes over the live chat, but Matt's just brought to my attention Fish Diaries. I see your messages. We need to DM. I think you've got my email, haven't you? I think you are you on our Discord or not? But Sean at geeksvana.com. Please email me and we can talk. We can pick up the phone and get that sorted for you. And get that resolved, your training course. No problem at all. And thank you, Matt, for spotting that.
Okay.
I didn't want him to feel like he was being ignored, basically. Goodbye this time. Actually, we'll let Graham sign off this time. Go on, Graham.
Stay safe, everyone. Follow the rules.